Welcome to the BTFL Season 3, Week 5, Rams and Seahawks, all-time great teams. Rams would start this one off, Kurt Warner throwing it over the middle to Henry Ellard, and then their running back showing off how he's not Gurley. Todd Gurley with 11 rushes, 67 yards, and this was the first of 2 touchdowns, going around defenders, making them look foolish. Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks hoping to tie the ball game up. Russell Wilson over the middle to Doug Baldwin, 2 receptions, 69 yards, and Russell Wilson would use his legs on this one. He would rush 9 times for 117 yards, and that was the first of 2 touchdowns. Rams would punt back to the Seahawks, and Doug Baldwin would get his second catch of the game, making it to around the 20-yard line. But here's a mistake by the Seahawks. Marshawn Lynch, he's beast mode, he fumbles, recovered by London Fletcher, and he could go all the way with an 80-yard touchdown was London Fletcher. That's a 14-point swing. Russell Wilson would get a lot done on the ground, making it inside Rams territory. He would find the end zone for the second time of the game. Game is tied. Kurt Warner in the third quarter throws it down the left side to Sir Isaac Bruce, diving for the catch, and then Todd Gurley, the second of 2 touchdowns, he dives into the end zone, gives the Rams a 7-point lead. Russell Wilson would give it again to Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch taking over for Sean Alexander, doing great rushing the ball this year, and he'd find the end zone as well. Get this man some Skittles. Less than a minute left in the game, Russell Wilson with the walk-off touchdown rainbow to Steve Largent. The Seahawks win this game 28-21, coming back. They're 5-0. Rams are 3-2. Now to the Sunday action. Patriots at Washington Redskins / Commanders. Tom Brady and the Patriots would start this off. The handoff to Curtis, my favorite, Martin. 16 rushes, 96 yards, and a touchdown. The Redskins / Commanders would take over, but Jurgensen would make a mistake, throwing an interception to Rodney Harrison, making a huge stiff arm, getting the Patriots into good field position. However, Adam Vinatieri would miss this field goal, giving the Redskins / Commanders the ball back. Clinton Portis, he's dressing up on this play, running up the middle. He wouldn't get into the end zone, but John Riggins would. So the game is tied. Redskins / Commanders find their way back into Patriots territory. Art Monk, he's painting a picture in the end zone. That's his first of 2 touchdowns because he's going to do it again. Art Monk, 181 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He's waiting wide open in the end zone on that one. But Tom Brady's going to try to get back in this one. Play action, throws the ball, and Randy's mossing everybody. He had 1 catch for 42 yards and a touchdown. And Clinton Portis, he's dressing up in the end zone. Washington Redskins / Commanders win this one 31-14. Both of these teams are 3-2. Fight against 2-2 teams. Bills at Titans / Oilers. Big game for Thurman Thomas as he catches the pitch to the right. Thurman Thomas with 178 total rushing yards in this one. But Jim Kelly would get sacked by Javon Curse, the freak. This would lead to a field goal. Bills get the ball back. Jim Kelly play action. No pressure in his face. Throws it down the left side to James Lofton. Lofton had 2 receptions for 75 yards, and this is the first of 2 touchdowns. Eddie George, he came back into this one a few weeks ago, and he gets injured. I think for the second time this season, he'd be replaced by Earl Campbell. Bills get the ball back, and Jim Kelly throws to his favorite receiver over the middle, Thurman Thomas. And Thurman Thomas had 60 yards on that completion. Play action, roll out, finding James Lofton, corner of the end zone, and that puts the game at 17-0. Warren Moon would eventually get points, this one to Ernest Givens. All the Givens he could get, but this was not enough for the Titans / Oilers. The Bills win this one 20-7. They're 3-2. Titans / Oilers are 2-3. Bengals have had a ridiculously laughable season this year. They're hosting the Arizona Cardinals, who are on fire in this game. Kurt Warner being one of the better passers of the week. He had 344 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Ickey Woods is fumbling. The Cardinals are recovering the ball, and this just gives more chances for Larry Fitzgerald to catch touchdowns. 4 receptions, 191 yards, and that was his second touchdown, and this was his third touchdown. The Arizona Cardinals absolutely brutalized the Cincinnati Bengals as David Johnson would catch this touchdown, Kurt Warner's last, but he would get injured, David Johnson would, and he'd be replaced by Otis Anderson. The Cardinals would win this game 38-10. The Cardinals are 4-1, and the Bengals still haven't won any games this season. Pivotal AFC North matchup between two hated rivals, the Ravens and the Steelers. The Ravens punter would get tackled before the punt. That'd be a turnover on downs. And then Jerome Bettis, he doesn't have a head of lettuce. He's the bus, gets a touchdown. Lamar Jackson would get safety by Jack Lambert. But then Justin Tucker would kick off to Le'Veon Bell. And we know that Le'Veon Bell likes to make his diss tracks, but he's rapping too well, but he can't hold on to the ball. It's on the ground. It's a fumble recovered by Chris McAllister. And this would lead to Ray Rice from Rutgers touchdown, putting the Ravens on the board. They're down by 2. Terry Bradshaw would throw the post over the middle to Lynn Swann, 96 yards, and that was his only touchdown. Ravens trying to get back into the ball game, down by 9. Torrey Smith with the catch over the middle. That'll help. And then a single back formation. Would throw the ball right to Anquan Embolden, but then the Ravens would go back. A few plays later, Lamar Jackson would get sacked by Mean Joe Green, and this would lead to a field goal make by Justin Tucker. To ice this game, Terry Bradshaw down the right side to Hines Ward, and the game would end 23-10 on this Franco Harris touchdown. Ravens lose this one, they're 1-4. The Steelers find themselves at the top, 4-1. Jets are yet another team that have been super pathetic this year. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. The Jets are coming off their bye. Deshaun Jackson was the player of the game today. 5 rushes for 101 yards, and that was his first of 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Terrell Owens, his lone catch will be for 44 yards, and this is a touchdown in double coverage. It's a 14-point ball game. Lone mistake for the Philadelphia Eagles that we're going to show you. Steve Van Buren is going to return this one to around the 14-yard line. He put the ball on the ground. It's a fumble recovered by the Jets. But then Joe Namath would go backwards. Sacked by Wes Hopkins. And then he'd be sacked after stepping up here. Sacked by Brian Dawkins, the X Factor. They kick the field goal, and Deshaun Jackson is yet again off to the races. He had one amazing game coming back from his injury. He has the touchdown. The Philadelphia Eagles eventually win this one, 24-3. They're 3-2. Jets are 0-4. Big game here between Cardiac Cats, Jaguars, and Panthers. This was the tale of 2 halves. Jimmy Smith would get this pass from Trevor Lawrence. He would get into the end zone. That was a 50-yard reception for a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence would find Keenan McCardell down the right side. He makes it inside the 5, and Fred Taylor, who had 94 rushing yards, gets his first of 2 touchdowns. He's about to get his second of 2 touchdowns here on this long run, and he could go all the way. Jaguars up 21-3. That is a cursed score. I want you guys to remember that. Cam Newton goes down the left side to Greg the third leg Olsen. He's on a tear this season. 3 receptions, 97 yards. Christian McCaffrey, he goes around defenders, getting it into the end zone. Christian McCaffrey had 97 yards rushing for himself and a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence finds Keenan McCardell yet again, finding it into Jaguars territory. But Trevor Lawrence would make a mistake, throwing an interception to Eric Davis. The Panthers take over, and Cam Newton would play action, roll out, throwing it to Christian McCaffrey, getting it to around the 31-yard line, and then would jump back over the middle to Mushin Mohammed. Cam Newton had 3 touchdowns in this game, 231 passing yards. Rolling out, Steve Smith Sr. in the end zone. Panthers win this one 31-21. Panthers are 2-1. Jaguars are 1-4. Falcons at Texans. Texans haven't won a single game this year, so they need to win one. Matt Ryan, he's spelling Michael Vick. Deshaun Watson is the quarterback for the Houston Texans all-time greats. Finds Kevin Walter down the left side. He'd have 2 receptions on this drive for 72 yards. That's all he'd have in this game. Not that much offense here by the Texans, but Arian Foster's freeze would find the end zone. This is his first of 3 touchdowns. But Matt Ryan, he's trying to match here. Stepping up into the pocket, finding Gerald Riggs left. He'd have 14 receptions for 122 yards, 1 reception for 1 touchdown. Arian Foster's freeze, getting the ball into Falcons territory. Deshaun Watson would try the quarterback sweep right, and he would end up getting 49 rushing yards to around the 2-yard line, and this would be an easy scamper for Arian Foster's freeze. Texans take a 7-point lead. Next drive for the Falcons, right before halftime, the ball is thrown to Terrence Mathis, and Terrence Mathis with 2 receptions for 43 yards in this game. Matt Ryan over the middle, Roddy White to the 9, and then Matt Ryan would attempt to finish off this drive, throwing it over the middle, and he has got Terrence Mathis. Terrence Mathis has the touchdown. Next drive for the Houston Texans, we've got Dominic Williams, oftentimes called Dominic Davis, who would return this ball close to Falcons territory, and then Arian Foster's freeze with the flip right, he's got the touchdown. 4th down for the Falcons. Matt Ryan would get sacked by Brian Cushings, and then this drive would end off with Deshaun Watson giving it to DeAndre Hopkins. The Texans win this ball game 28-21. They get their first win of the season. Falcons are 2-3. Giants, coming off of their big week last week, host the 1-win Minnesota Vikings. Fran Tarkenton, who is a Hall of Famer, he has pressure in his face, throws the ball down the right side. A jumping Steve Jordan. Steve Jordan is the best tight end in Vikings history, and would eventually find Randy Moss diving, and then Adrian Peterson up the middle. Adrian Peterson with 113 rushing yards. That was one of 2 rushing touchdowns for him. Odell Beckham Jr. would catch this pass from Eli Manning, getting it to around the 21-yard line. And then Eli Manning would play action, roll out, find Victor Cruz, and he's salsa dancing in the end zone. One of 2 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. Adrian Peterson getting in more time. He won MVP a few times in the NFL in his career. And then Fran Tarkenton would throw the ball down left to Chris Carter. All he does is catch touchdowns. Vikings get the ball back eventually, but Terry Kennard intercepts the quarterback. The Giants would add a touchdown. So it's a 4-point game. Eli Manning is sacked by the trash-talking John Randall, and then Adrian Peterson would take advantage of this, going around defenders, getting it inside the 30, inside the 20, and then Fran Tarkenton would play action, throw the ball over the middle, and all day is wide open in the end zone. Touchdown, Adrian Peterson. However, his lone mistake of the game, Adrian Peterson is safetied, so it's 23-12. But then he would get the ball again and get another touchdown. The Vikings would eventually win this one 30-19. Both teams are 2-3. And for the final game of this highlights, Buccaneers at Saints, Brady versus Breeze. Tom Brady not having the greatest game, over the middle to the man, the myth, the legend, Rob Gronkowski. Mike Allstott, the A-Train, would get the ball up the middle. Mike Allstott with 10 rushes for 77 yards. Brady would hand the ball off to Warwick. He's not done yet, and he gets the first down. And then Mike Allstott, the A-Train, in the end zone. He's got the touchdown. Game is 14-0. Drew Brees with the play action. He'll throw it down to his favorite receiver, Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas with his only reception for 41 yards and a touchdown. After a field goal by the Buccaneers, Saints try to get more. Alvin Kamara touchdown, but it's not enough as Morton Anderson tries for the onside kick, doesn't recover. Buccaneers win 17-14. They're 3-2. Saints are 2-3. Thank you guys for watching the highlights for Week 5 of the BTFL Season 3. Make sure you guys watch the Red Zone special to watch the games between the Raiders and the Bears, all-time greats, the Packers and the Cowboys, all-time greats, and finally, the Chargers and the Broncos, all-time greats, as well as the recap show and the game of the week. Hope you guys have a nice day.